All right, we'll start in a minute here and talk about virtualized communications. And I'm looking for some additional people to walk in here and join us. So this presentation today is about virtualized communications for a new way to communicate and collaborate in a truly software-based IT way. And until now, communications has traditionally not been part of IT. And I can maybe ask real quick whether you guys even know what is being used in your company for communications and collaboration. But in most cases, and I assume you're all IT people, in most cases people either don't know or just don't care because it's frankly not been part of IT, so why would you care? And I think this is changing very rapidly right now, and we will see now how communications and collaboration meets IT as this gets transitioned into a software solution that really runs in the cloud and virtualized. And I'm sure that in most organizations, the organization itself is already consolidated, that the original telecom people now report into IT. The CIO inherited a whole new organization, inherited new vendor relationships, frankly with vendors that probably the CIO never met before and likely never really wanted a relationship with. But nonetheless, it became part of IT, and it became an important factor of the IT budget. And therefore, when it's about cost reductions and how you can make IT leaner overall, then this is a great area to start thinking about how the consolidation of integration really leads to the consolidation of organization. So unified communications meets IT, and we think this is a very important new trend. So as we do this and really bring together unified communications and the clear requirements that users have for a unified communications experience with the IT environment, the IT people, IT best practices, something entirely new emerges. And we call this UC squared. It's the next level of unified communications. It's unified communications done the way IT people would do it and the way it runs in an IT environment. So we call it UC squared, and I think this is a really interesting new concept that you should be aware of. So if we go back in history and have a quick look at what really happened over the last pretty much 2 decades, I think you can say that innovation was pretty slow on the PBX and unified communication side for quite some time. Not much happened. We went from TDM telephony to voice over IP that led to a consolidation of cabling plant. 90% of PBX and UC is still voice, 75% is hardware with a lot of phones, so that the level of innovation was really very stagnant and slow. No wonder it's a vertically integrated model, and if you have to wait for a particular vendor to innovate, it usually means that innovation doesn't really progress too fast. I think now with the introduction of virtualization, with a whole new way of building data centers, and with communications enablement taking hold in the IT world, we really open a new chapter of unified communications we call UC squared. And you can see that this is an entirely new solution that now runs in a virtualized environment, that is standardized, that is based on best practices, is open and interoperable, so that you go from a vertically integrated model to a horizontal integrated model that really gives you a whole lot more choice, doesn't lock you into a particular vendor, and allows you to operate this very important mission-critical service in the context of other IT applications, which opens the door to a whole lot of additional opportunities for application integration. So if we make a step back and really look at how this plays out at the industry level, then on the left side I have what I would call the PBX and unified communications industry with its respective legacy players, with a VAR channel that is very fragmented and distributed. They roll trucks, they have tool belts, they help you install a lot of hardware, and it follows a very different business model, a very different pricing model, a very different installation and operating model than you typically see on the IT side. In addition, there are some real financial challenges emerging in this industry with a lot of debt that's mounting, a lot of losses if you look around what players are doing in their SEC reportings. So this is not a healthy industry. This is an industry that is struggling on a lot of different fronts. At the same time, on the right side, you have the IT industry, the enterprise software stack, and you see a lot of different applications here, from CRM, ERP to intranet and social portals to all kinds of support solutions, more or less social, to email calendar, to document management, to directory services and the cloud infrastructure itself. And what we think is underway right now as a major transition really is that the communications industry, this entire space that was on the left before, is being absorbed into IT as a feature. And if you're one of the companies that made up this legacy PBX and UC industry in the past, then being absorbed into IT as a feature is not really a pretty picture. But I think it's a very attractive move for the companies playing on the right side, as you can communications enable your solution. Suddenly your applications come to life, they're presence enabled. You can click to call, click to video, click to chat, click to conference, and everything social that was built up until now comes to life in a completely new way, as the real-time aspect of it is now mingled in with the offline aspect of it, and activity streams and things like that people used to implement through social networking applications. And therefore, this is a huge step forward for customers. It's a huge step forward providing value into these customers for ISVs. It's a whole new way for the SI partners to add an additional application into the mix and provide application integration. So we think this is the way forward that also will lead to a completely different pricing model, to a breakup of the vertically integrated model, into a more horizontally layered industry where customers at the end of the day have a whole lot of choice in what kind of devices, what clients and what mobile devices they want to use to communicate in general. Now I think as we move this into the cloud and talk more and more about how this works in a cloud setup, then you could say every software application could run in a cloud, but it's going to cost you. So if an application is not specifically developed for such a modern standards-based environment, well then it's not really optimized for it. Its footprint is heavy, and therefore running it in the cloud is not cost effective. It requires a ton of resources and just doesn't work too well. So what we have here is really a discussion around what makes up an application that fits into the cloud and therefore can be in an optimized way run in an environment like this. And I want to just quickly walk you around this chart here. So if we start over here on the left side, then obviously the application has to be independent of the cloud controller and the hypervisor. It can run on Red Hat KVM and Open Cloud, but it can also run on Citrix, or it can run on VMware, or it can run on different virtualization platforms. And we as the application provider should not dictate what infrastructure that you would like to use. It should also be hardware agnostic. If I remember how Cisco HCS, which is the hosted offering that Cisco wrapped around Cisco Call Manager works, then that is really a vendor-specific stack that starts with vendor-specific hardware. We don't think that should be the case. We think that the application should really be truly hardware agnostic. Then the application itself should be lean. It should have a small footprint in terms of compute units, in terms of memory, overall resource consumption, so that you can, in a very optimized way, actually run it virtualized in a cloud. We need a standard runtime environment with a single image. It's very important that you can just spin it up. And if you build a cluster of a system that includes different components, then each and every component should have the same runtime environment, be started from the same image, so that you can very easily spin up additional components, extend your cluster, do disaster recovery, backup and restore, and operate this in a much simpler way. Then it should be managed by standard tools from a troubleshooting, diagnostics perspective, service assurance and provisioning perspective. It should really run in an IT environment and not require vendor-specific tools to do so. Point 7 over there, automated installation and provisioning with web services APIs. Almost goes without really talking about it. Of course, we need automated installation. It should really inflate itself. You should be able to install global clusters with ease and without a huge effort that sometimes can take weeks or months. If this is cloud-based, you should be able, on demand, to spin it up and spin it down again. Then the management needs to be centralized, even for a global cluster, so that there's only one place where you configure things, where you implement adds, moves, and changes, where your backup restore policy goes, where your disaster recovery things go, and all these different things. So there should be one centralized place to manage it. And then we think it should be Linux-based, simply because that's the most efficient operating system to run it on. It's also free in a lot of cases, or cost-effective running on Red Hat Enterprise. And if you then think along building a stack here from the operating system up with middleware and database components, we are not focused on a Red Hat on an Oracle database. We can run on Red Hat Linux components that are typically free of charge, so that your whole middleware stack becomes a whole lot more cost effective and becomes standardized, because it's not vendor specific components. So I think these are some of the things we think are important as people look at different applications and how they really want to evolve their communications infrastructure and move it into IT. The next level up then is the discussion around application integration. And we think that as we introduce social into the enterprise, we have more and more social networking that proliferates into all kinds of enterprise applications. The bar really rises for application integration. I think in the beginning we were very happy just to be able to do single sign-on, to be able to log in to the different applications using a unified set of credentials. But these credentials are not enough anymore today to do this. What we really need today is profile integration, so that every user who logs into any application that the enterprise deploys for whatever purpose should have the same profile. And if you're a frequent contributor in some areas and not others, then your profile should reflect that. And you should be able to carry this profile into every application you have. And if you're one of the really highly valued contributors, it should be visible in every application you go. So this profile integration, I think, is very central to integrating different applications in the enterprise and provide the user experience that users at the end of the day really expect. The same is true with your relationships. You have buddy lists, you have friend lists, you have all kinds of social elements that establish relationships across these applications. And today this is all siloed. You have one set of relationships per application, and users, rightly so, are asking for integration. They would like to have one circle of friends, and these friends or buddies really apply to the profile and wherever they go. And we're still far away from that, and therefore we think that's a real necessity. And the last thing then, that is sort of the building foundation, or the basic building blocks of application integration, is really presence. Presence is real time. It represents your ability or willingness to communicate or interact in general. And it's a property that you would like to proliferate into every application you use. And as you do so, it brings these applications to life to an extent where I would even say presence first brings social applications to life and into the social realm, so that they really become social through presence enablement. So it's these three things, presence, relationships or social graphs, and profiles that need to be integrated in order to create a cohesive user experience across. And what you really need to do is have applications that are produced in the same standards-based environment, applications that are standards-based and open, that facilitate and allow such integration to do this successfully and cost-effectively. And the cost of application integration is rapidly rising with this bar that is rising in this space. And therefore this is an area where I think vendors like ASUS can really contribute to making this a whole lot easier. And then finally, I'd like to introduce you to what we think is the next level as it comes to offering hosted applications or applications on an on-demand basis in a services model, is really an application store concept for enterprises. I think we've very successfully seen app stores proliferate on the consumer side from Apple and from Google through its Android market. And that has been a very powerful concept to innovate very quickly and bring value to consumers. I think there is a similar concept possible on the enterprise side where a system integrator, a carrier, a hoster in general who offers managed services can pick a certain number of applications, provide productized integration between these applications, and allow enterprises to just click and consume not only one, but a set of these applications that then, out of the box, are integrated and work together in the way I described before. And we think that is a way for system integrators and carriers, hosters, to really add value beyond being better at hosting something. And again, it requires an open environment. It requires something that can be produced in a standardized IT environment that lends itself to supporting a variety of applications out of the box. And basing this on Linux, basing it on open source tools, basing it on an open environment like that is, I think, the only way this can really be done successfully and cost effectively.